Hi guys, a very warm welcome to the Niels van Roij Design channel and welcome again to your questions on the Daytona shooting brake Hommage. The first question is by Colm Doyle and he asks, "Hi Niels, as always, thanks for taking the time with this. I guess I want everything. Failing that, I suppose what would be great would be walked through the process as if I were a sales prospect and you're explaining your process to me, with some time spent on all features. The bit I'd like to see in depth is the clay modeling. Like everything else, I'm sure your process is benefiting from modern tech, but the clay modeling probably hasn't changed since the dawn of time. And it would be great, especially to see where the engineering fuses with the artistry." Okay, let's start with going through a project as if you were a prospect. It starts basically with a question. What do you want? Some clients have a very clear idea. For instance, this client, he says, I want a homage to the Daytona shooting brake. Other clients come to me and they say, well, Niels, I've seen your Breadvan Hommage, I've seen the Phantom Coupe, I've seen Silver Spectre shooting brake, I've seen Model SB. Could we do something like that, but based on my Aston Martin, on my Bentley, on my, you name it. So two different types of clients in that sense, because some clients have this strong idea and they say, could you help me executing this? And others say, could we have a conversation? I love my Bentley, however, I would like to have something special. And then that conversation starts. It depends a bit on where people are in the world, of course, but it usually starts with like a Zoom call or something like that, a telephone call. People, of course, are always able to visit us if that currently is possible in the COVID situation. But it starts with a conversation about what it is that inspires people, what it is that they like, what it is that they have in their house, not just the garage, but you know, their art, the way they live, the way they are planning on using the car. So it's a whole open conversation about what it is that that you want in the widest sense of the word, and then we'll go to the next step, which is selecting the car. For instance, the client that commissioned Silver Spectre shooting brake, he initially said, I would like to have a shooting brake based on a Rolls-Royce Phantom, the Phantom Coupe at the time. That was still in production when we started the project, and I actually said, well, it's a fantastic idea. A shooting brake is very relevant for the Rolls-Royce brand. However, it might not be the best base, the Phantom, because it's such a big car and it works very nice as a sedan. It works fantastically as a coupe and as a drop-head coupe. However, extending that roof line towards the back with a Phantom Coupe would look just odd. It would be an unpleasant car to look at. So here I have advised the client we should take a Wraith as a base vehicle, the coupe, the smaller coupe based on the Ghost chassis, and go from there, because that's a slightly more athletic shape where we have a bit more possibilities when it comes to designing a beautiful shooting brake. So it's this advice hat that I have on sometimes, and with the team, so it depends on the type of car that will select a different builder, let's say, a different team to work on the car, different experts to do upholstery, bodywork, you name it. We'll go forward into initial ideation sketches, so based on the conversations we've had. Then we go to the next step, which is sort of these rougher renderings that you see on the background coming by of the Daytona shooting brake Hommage. And then we'll go into the next step, which is even more refined details, which then will be translated either into CAD, computer-aided design, or we'll go into clay. The CAD will then be milled into foam models, full-scale foam models, and clay is obviously full scale based on the actual car. That's what we do with foam as well. So the foam is being placed on top of the actual donor car, the base car, and then the client is invited to walk around it. We'll discuss it with the coach builder, with all people involved, how we can push that further to production. But it starts all with an initial question, and the question comes from the client. Sometimes I do initiate things, but I can't say a whole lot more about that because that's far into the future, and I'm talking about projects running now. And you don't know anything about that yet. So you have to wait a bit more on that. Although the heritage customs work we do is obviously initiated by us. The wheels we design, the jewelry we design. So that's a bit different. Of course, we make a selection of options that clients can choose from in the shop, and then the builds are designed together with a customer, quite similar to how we design or coach build cars actually. So that's truly visiting the clients, going to their homes, discussing how they live, discussing how they would use the car. Is that going to be a car you drive in the city, or is it going to be a all-terrain car, or is it going to be a holiday car, etc., etc. Anyway, let's move to the next question, which is by Tikhon Osipov, because the points on the clay modeling process that you asked, that is actually something that has been explained in the previous videos, Colm. So I'll link them in the description below, so you can have a look at the Breadvan Hommage videos, but also the videos on the Daytona shooting brake Hommage explaining that process. So next question, like I said, is by Tikhon Osipov. He says, go as usual. Concept, proportion surfacing, elements like jewelry, interior, and add progress on the bodywork if you can. It's a very interesting car to turn into a shooting brake. Well, thank you very much. In this video, you'll see the renderings coming by, and we've discussed a few of the items in previous videos as well on proportion, surfacing, and jewelry, but not too much yet on surfacing. So it's interesting to do that in this video. We've done some on the graphics, of course, and on other elements of the design. But let's have a look at surfacing specifically here. The base car obviously is quite a, let's say, a pronounced car. The 599 is both loved and hated. There's quite a lot going on in that car, and I would say it's also called to the clown shoe, for instance, which is not just the Z3 BMW, the coupe, the M coupe, but also this car is sometimes referred to as the clown shoe, and it's not necessarily a compliment. It's a little bit forced, although proportionally it's actually quite good. A long nose, cap rearward. The surfacing and the graphics of the base vehicle are very busy. It's a lot going on, and that's one of the aims in this car, to tune down actually a little bit. So the front fender will have this very simple graphic for the headlight, running from one side of the car all the way to the other side. So it's this horizontal graphic that links to the 72 Daytona shooting brake. And at the side, we'll clean it up. So where the base car has quite a lot of stuff going on, for instance, in the fender, which you will see carried over actually in this series of sketches. In the final car, that has been changed and cleaned up even a little bit more. But for instance, on the rear end as well, quite a lot is going on on the base car. And here we've tried to really reduce what you see, so that what is there will be appreciated in a more clean kind of way, let's say. Flicking through these sketches, you can see we're working with changing the highlights on the rear end, for instance, breaking up the visual mass of the rear end with smaller highlights or bigger highlights. In this case, you can see the highlight of the sill, so below the door, this big white flat triangle, let's say, is being in a way repeated on the rear end to reduce visual bulk of the extra overhang we have, not just in height but also in length towards the back, and to give a bit more sculpture to it without being overly busy and overly pronounced. So it's an exercise of reduction, if you like, that is important in this specific car and for this specific client as well. This client also said, well, you know, the 599 base car is a great package. However, it is a bit too busy for my personal taste, and it would be nice if we can calm it down a little bit in its surfacing. So that was definitely one of the aims with this project. So Tikon, I hope this has answered your question. Let's move on to the next, which is by Grego Mihaly. He says, wow, the proportions are outstanding. I cannot believe how you managed to make the rear so low and sleek on the clay especially, and I'm interested in everything about it. Well, the clay modeling process can be followed on our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and every once in a while on the video here on YouTube. And the clay model is a iterative process, just like the sketching. So we start with these early black ideation sketches that you might have seen on our social media as well. These are wild, these are rough, these are, you know, experimenting, looking what we can do and how far can we push things, and the wheels are a bit bigger, the roof's a bit lower. These are really looking at generating new character, not yet at refining that. So it's not overly perfect. You know, you can see that in the sketch, and I think that to me is important. I do that deliberately. Some people clean up their ideation sketches very much. I prefer to show to the client as well that this is an early stage of the design. So we shouldn't look at the exact surface transition of the fender into the rear, into the door, or into an air outlet or a diffuser or whatever. It's really about the big picture, the big gesture. What do we do with the rake of the rear end? So how steep the rear end is. What do we do with the roof line? You know, these big points in the car. Headlight graphics, tail light graphics, the things that are really important for the bigger picture. Then we move into the next step, which is the series of renderings you see here, which are a bit more refined or on package, so they are exactly on the actual base car, so nobody's fooling anybody when it comes to proportions. Then that is being taken forward into the clay model, and we basically go through the same iterative process again. So it goes on and off, on and off, on and off, up until we have what we think is the right balance in the surfacing, in the volumes of the clay model. So I hope that has answered some of your questions. Thanks again for tuning in. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you for the next video.